Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Devils United. We're back with another preview, and this time it is against Chelsea. As I've mentioned, I think it's going to be the biggest game of the season. This game for me is going to determine if are we going to finish first or if we're going to finish in second or third. We've got Andy and Chloe. Andy, how are you doing?
Not too bad. Great to be back on. Missing my car at the minute because my tire plus nail doesn't match very well. So this is a face of somebody who spent 2 hours on public transport in Manchester, and I'll just leave it at that.
You feel our pain before the passing tests.
Yeah,
I was the same. I've just become a princess since I passed my test years ago. I drive everywhere.
I do now as well. Chloe, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Good to be back and looking forward to today's podcast.
Absolutely. We'll jump into the comments quickly. Good evening, Vincent. Thanks for coming in. I hope you are well. Good evening, Reese. Have a nice night. And hey there, Josh. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. So we'll go on to yesterday's game. We could say it was near enough perfect. It was just a clean sheet. Well, let us down. But 5 goals, can't complain. And the first hat trick in the league since 2019, which was actually against Leicester, believe it or not. Chloe, what did you think of the game?
It was a cracking game. Other than the goal we let in, it was a fantastic game. The first half, we could have scored more. We could have, but at the end of the day, we went in the first half up, and then in second half, we obviously won again, and more goals should have been scored in the second half, but again we didn't do the chances. But to me, it was one of them where we could have scored more, we could have took our chances, but we didn't. And there was a lot of passing back, a lot of back and forth, going, not passing, not crossing to the other side, and it was just one of them that when it got to the right person or the right side, or it got up, we had them chances. We scored from them chances. Yeah, we missed some shots that should have gone in, but we still put the shots that went in away. And you've got to give credit to Leicester and Leicester's goalkeeper because of the way they handled the situation, the way they handled the match. And for me, Leicester's goalkeeper, albeit she's on loan at Leicester from Bayern Munich, what a top keeper for them to have. And if she keeps them up this season, then it wouldn't surprise me if they ask for her to come back permanently if she's not needed at Bayern Munich, because she's keeping them up. She's keeping them up at the minute for me. But obviously, it all depends on these next few games and stuff. But I think as well, Leslie getting a perfect hat trick. For obviously, it was a true perfect hat trick as well. A left-footed goal, a right-footed goal, and a header. It's one that is very rarely seen, and it's very rarely seen in the men's game as well. So to see it in the women's game, it's even better.
Absolutely. I agree with all your points. I think in terms of Leicester, the goalkeeper, she's called Leipzig. She was definitely their best player. I think Ruby May, she was brilliant as well. What about you, Andy? What did you think of the game?
Well, I'm never going to be as positive as Chloe, just generally in life. But no, I thought that the first half was a little bit like deja vu. We were all a bit worried on the sidelines that we were going to get a little bit like the Everton show and, the things that happened previously. But then we did kind of we turned it up slowly with like a boiling a frog mentality, just turning it up. And we did show our class, and obviously we did really, really well. I think that it's interesting going about the keeper because multiple people on the side, in the stands with me included, was saying that we'd take her as a number 2 keeper. I've even had some people, I'm not going to know who it was, say that they'll take her over Mary if Mary goes, because she's a bloody good keeper. She really is good. And I've said on the pod a number of times, but I know it's a bit of a bone of contention with Chloe, but she's also a bit tall. But anyway, I like the tall. I like the fact she's a bit taller. We seem to be doing a thing to work out what if we can get the smallest keeper in the WSL. No, I mean I think Bayern may have locked her down for a 5-year deal. I'm not sure, but she is really, really good. I think it would be a mutual benefit for both clubs if we had her as number 2. I think it's an open secret that Baggers is on the way out. She's just going to be released in summer. Emily Ramsey is an interesting question because she's been injured again. Though I saw on Twitter today that she was pictured yesterday without a boot, so she's obviously getting better on that. Are we going to keep her? Will she want to stay as number 2 after she's kind of perpetually on loan? We've now got Sophia Middleton Patel, who's clearly our number 3 keeper. So it just depends. And then obviously, if we do hit Champions League, will Bayern want to give us their keeper as number 2? Probably not. That's the interesting point. I mean, I enjoyed the game yesterday. Again, it's hard to see the way we played. I think the thing that obviously with Skinner there, but I think the way that I noticed for the first goal especially is that, and this is a good thing, is that it was almost like that they've almost, when they decided to do their own thing, that they almost ignored Skinner ball, because that thing that Hannah did running from our half to their half that basically set up the first goal, that's not Skinner ball. Tiki-taki toe crab and trying to walk it in is Skinner ball. So they sort of went a little bit back to going down the wings and going direct again. And we did really, really well against Leicester. Whether or not we're going to do that against Chelsea is a different question. But I did like the fact that we did switch it up a bit. I mean, hell, hopefully I need to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he saw the need to switch it up and we did. It wasn't that they just decided to ignore the way he likes to play.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Josh is right in terms of the Chelsea game. We do need to stop Sam Kerr and take our chances. I think we did take the chances in the last Chelsea game, just that we didn't take our chances at the back either. But I'll quickly say hi to the new people in the chat. Hey there to my dad. I hope you're well. Thanks for coming in. Hey there, Rave. Thanks for coming in. I hope you are well. Good evening, Doug. I hope you're well. Thank you for coming in. Good evening, Jordan. I hope you're well. Thank you for coming in. And hello, Indian Scouser. I hope you are well. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, that's right, Doug. Liverpool women also beat Chelsea first game of the season. We'll do some player ratings. We've not done one before, so it looks. That's how it looks. I've updated it with the ones who's been substituted, and also Russo got the 3 goals, Golden with the goal there. So it'll be based off the starting 11. We'll be doing our player ratings on, if that sounds good with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. We'll start with the first one, which is of course Mary Earps. What's your rating for you, Andy, for Mary?
I mean, it's a difficult one because she didn't have much to do. Obviously, she had the issue with the goal, and I don't really think it was her fault. It was a lucky ricochet, and then it just sort of went in. It was just essentially one of those things. So I'd probably say not anything. Not anything against what she did, because I don't think she had anything to do any better. But 7 out of 10.
What about you, Chloe?
Yeah, I was going to go with 7 just because of the goal, and she didn't have much to do, and plus she did do some good saves in the match as well.
Mm-hmm. To be honest, I actually had a 6, and the only reason why I had a 6 is that I just think her kicking wasn't all there for me in yesterday's game. I think that usually Mary's so good at building up from the back. She's usually so good in keeping the possession. But in yesterday's game, there was a couple of times where she gave possession very easily, and the kicks wasn't the kicks what we've seen before. And that's why I give her a 6. But with the majority being 7, we'll do a 7.
We're there and thereabouts, aren't we? It's not like you've gone 1 on 10. Like,
no, exactly. Exactly. That's right. Next one, we're going to do Honour. What about you, Chloe? What are you going to go for, Honor?
I'll go for. I think because of the way she played, she did a few of the goals were from her assists, and the way she took the ball into Leicester's half. I'll give her a 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, she generated so much for us going down the wing, just bringing the pace. When, as I said, there was a notable, switch in pace from previous games. So I would say 9 as well.
Mm-hmm. I had the same. I had a 9. I think she was outstanding. So let me see, what number was she now? That was there she go. Yeah. So I agree with the same. Honor's a 9 for me as well. I think she was fantastic. We'll do Blundell next. So we've done the other fullback. For me with Honor, I don't think she was for Hannah, I don't think she was as good as Honor, but I think she was still brilliant in the game. We've seen a lot of forward runs. I give a Blundell an 8. What are you going for, Andy?
Yeah, 8 again's fine. I don't know if you can do halves or not, but I was thinking that
you can do 8. 8.5.
8.5 is what jumped at me, because the thing about Hannah that I think's evident is that she knows where she plays and she knows who's coming down the tracks. And with Jade Riviera coming in, with Mannion obviously now already back, and she's kept her off the team sheet, as the Americans would say. She's really impressed me because she has really fought, because she knows that she's got the wolf at the door, that if she had a couple of bad games because her name isn't Katie Zellum, she will get dropped. And then she won't get back in when Jade Riviera appears. So she is playing like there's no tomorrow, and she's doing really, really well. And she's making runs. I mean, we were with a German fan yesterday who actually came up from, flew from Germany actually to meet Hannah, and actually got a shirt from her because she knew she actually played. She actually plays video games with Hannah online, and and even she apparently was saying to V, her name was, that she didn't know how she made that run, basically. But it was funny because that person was actually a Chelsea fan, but she was head to toe in United gear because of Hannah, and she liked Hannah. So it was kind of an interesting dynamic. But yeah, I think she had a similar point. She's really fought to keep her place, and she's really, really given every inch, every game. So yeah, I think 8.5.
And what about you, Chloe?
I would have got, for me, she wasn't as good as Honor in the game, but she had patches of where she was good, especially obviously she was the one that got us that first goal with Russo, and like a passing and stuff, and her and Leah worked really well down the left. So for me, I would go with an 8.5 for Anna.
That's fine. Yeah, you can do 8.5. That's good. Player next, Millie Turner. Chloe, what are you gonna go for the rating?
For Millie, she again can't fault Millie. Can't really fault any of the defence. They played the hearts out. I don't know who it was that was defending the goal. Whether it was Millie. For Leicester's goal, whether there's a mistake going into it. But I think we all thought it was offside beforehand, or the ball went out. But Millie's our rock at the back. She's a player that is always there, whether she's up front or whether she's up there for a corner or not. She gets back. So I think an 8.5 for Millie Turner from me.
What about you, Andy?
This is some of the things that will come later as we go forward onto our forward line, and let Chloe guess where that's going to come from. But sometimes I feel safer that I'm virtual and not within slapping distance, because she played all right, but I can't remember anything about what she did in the game. So she was a little bit quiet. She was a little bit forgettable for me. No, obviously, because it's a defender as well, the counter argument to that is almost like a referee. The best ones you don't see a lot of the time. They're just in the engine room. They sort of like, they keep things going. But I would say 7.5.
Yeah, I had the same.
There was a good shot on goal. She had a good header on goal. She had an option for. Her main benefit is her height for us, because, as I say, we don't seem to like tall players. Her main benefit is her height, and yes, she's very, very good at what she does. But I mean, she didn't have a bad game. There's been a couple of games where she made a few mistakes, but I think 7.5. Maybe 8, but yeah, 7.5.
I had a 7.5. As you've already mentioned, she was a bit quiet in the game, and she did do a couple of shots on target as well, on goal in the corners. So I don't think she really had a step wrong. But if you ask the United Twitter, they'll probably say something different. But we'll come back to you, Andy, for Letizier's rating.
It's an interesting one, that, because I've got her name on my back. Good, really good, probably better than Millie. But again, I don't sit there and think, wow, she was amazing yesterday. She was at a normal high level, but it was sort of like, if you were sort of plotting the sort of performance, I would say it was quite sort of high, but relatively plateaued. So I'd say 8. I think there was one silly mistake she made. I think she might have miskicked it and gave it to the opposition. Possibly, or kicked it out the sideline. I just remember one point when she did it, but generally she was strong because she's a top class player. She's probably our second best defender that we have, so I would say 8.
And what about you, Chloe?
Yeah, I was going to go with 8 for Letizier. For me, she was really good. She was quiet in terms of in the box at corners. She's normally there, and she did have one shot or a couple from corners. But for me, she probably was one of our best players in that game, especially like in the second half, keeping Leicester out, because they could have scored more goals than that one. She did track back a lot, especially to track Hannah Kane. So for me, yeah, 8 is probably the best for Letizier.
I'll go for 8 because it was the majority one, but for me, I had a 7. I actually thought Millie Turner was the better centre back in the game, in my opinion. I think Letizier, she did do a missed kick on one of the times, but I think there was about 3 occasions that I can think of off the top of my head where she got beaten on a one-on-one, and that's something that Letizia isn't usually like, because she is such a strong centre-back, and she has definitely been our best centre-back this season. But even though she was still good, I think it was probably one of the worst games of what I've watched, because the amount of times she got beaten on the ball, and that's not like her. So that's why I had a 7, but we stick with the 8 just because it is the majority vote.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to get a different perspective because you were watching it on
yeah.
So you got a sort of higher level view. Obviously, we're at the side of the pitch at certain points. We're obviously looking quite far left and right on the pitch. So I think that's a perfectly valid point as well, to be honest.
We'll go next now with Katie Zellum. For me, I had the Katie Zellum rating of a 7. She done an absolute awful giveaway of the ball. That backward pass. I was literally thinking, how could you give away a backward pass? I was flabbergasted, honestly. I genuinely was, and I just think her passing wasn't all there. She was very quiet. I don't think her free kicks were it for me either. So that's why I gave her a 7. But what about you, Chloe?
I was going to give her 7.5 just because the mistakes she made, her corners and her free kicks weren't up to her standard as they normally are. Like you said, she made a silly back pass, which resulted in Leicester getting the ball. And she did make some other mistakes and stuff. So, yeah, a 7.5 for me.
And what about you, Andy?
Well. About many months have I been waiting to rate Katie's on. No. I mean, I know Vincent, you're going to give her 100 out of 10, aren't you, mate?
course he
But
would.
that's for different reasons than her footballing ability. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I almost feel like sitting there thinking she never does better than a 7.5. But I would say 6.5. Again, I mean, I'm very attacking focused, and I know, obviously she's a midfielder. She's a centre midfielder. She plays defensive midfield as well. She's not there to score 20, 30 goals a season. But I tell you, I never feel like she's ever going to finish. And I know Jackie never scored for us, and that's a different conversation and all that kind of stuff. And I know she has scored, but she makes all these mistakes, and depending on her, depending on what happens with the way she takes the ball, she can sometimes almost not give up, but she goes missing for parts of the game if she's annoyed or bored or tired. I mean, probably being a little harsh there. My bias is probably showing. 7's probably unbiasedly the answer, but I would probably say 6.5.
Mm-hmm. Well, Andy's
probably-
went 6.5. What was you going to say, Chloe?
Because we've both said, we've all said 6.5, 7.5, and 7. I would go in the middle of 7.
Yes, 7. Yeah. As I was just going to say, go in the middle with the 7. Hayley Ladd is next. Andy, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, solid. I mean, her playing style is solid, isn't it? I mean, she's a safe pair of hands, and she is essentially the concrete of the team. And again, played really well, got the tackles in. I'd say 8.
Okay. What about you, Chloe?
She got the tackles in. She got in the box. She had shots on target from outside the box. Her passing was on. I don't even think she made a bad pass as such. I think she did let the ball go to the opposition, but she's a player for me that does run after it, and she gets it, and she's one of them players that you're in a corner or a free kick. She's a player that will go straight back, and she's one of the first players you see in our half when the other team have got the ball. So for me, I'd give Hayley Ladd an 8.5 for yesterday.
Mm-hmm. I had Hayley Ladd as an 8 because I do think she was better than 2 midfielders. She's an absolute workhorse, and I think for me is that she doesn't get recognised for the things she does, just because she does all the scrappy and the dirty work, which nobody ever looks at in the game.
Yeah.
And I think she's worked on a lot more in going forward this season, which for me, I wouldn't have personally have done for her because I like her defending, but I think she has improved in terms of that. As Chloe's mentioned, she's had a couple of shots on goal. I think I would have rated her a little bit higher if for instance, we've seen a better shots for me, maybe, and a bit more tackles, but she didn't really have to do too much defending wise for me to give her a bit more. So I'll give her an 8. So it is now time for Leah Galton. Oh, what's happened? Why is this not work? Oh, I think Blundell, you couldn't give the rate. Could you? Why is that on X? 1 minute. What did we give?
8.5.
Yeah, 8.5.
I don't know why that's turned to X. 1 minute. Oh,
Yeah,
so
no.
it's.
I know.
5. There you go. That's good. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Whilst we do that, Leah Galton, Chloe, what are you gonna go for the rating?
I think Leah was one of our best players. In that match, she was up and down the wing, crosses in the box, getting the tackles in. She was nearly everywhere on the pitch for me. She was one of the standout players in my eyes for the match yesterday. I'd give her a strong 9 for the yesterday's match.
I agree with a 9 for me as well. She was all over the pitch. She was running down the wings constantly. Again, she was an absolute workhorse. She got a goal, well taken goal as well. Andy, what about you? You going for the same or something a bit different?
Yeah, I mean, I'm near enough there. I was going 8.5, but she did score, and all of our attacks are coming down that wing, and she kept on side this week a lot more, and kind of really knackered them out, to be honest. So I think a nine's pretty standard.
Next one now is Ella Toon. I'm gonna go for an Ella Toon is a 7.5 for me. I just think for me is that the form of Ella has really dropped off. I don't know if it's because she's tired or Skinner's overworking her, or it's just something there that's not clicking, because she is doing them through balls and it's working for England, but it's not working for Manchester United. So I'm not too sure why that is, but I just think for me is that we just haven't seen this, for me, the same Ella Toon. As I mentioned, quite tired, and apart from the through balls, there was nothing really much more I seen of her. She missed an absolute sitter as well in the game, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration as well. So I had to go with a 7.5. Andy, what are you going for?
Exactly the same. I think 7.5. She's being absolutely ragged by Skinner. I mean, I'm not saying she need, that she needs to have a rest, but I think she probably does a little bit, because he has this weird thing about not wanting to rotate the team, and so that means he's missed certain opportunities, like against Durham where he could have rotated, and I think. Yeah, I mean, I just hope she could play through it. Obviously, we're playing Chelsea this weekend, so we're going to need all our players, that we can play in our top team. And there isn't really much opportunity now. Probably Luz or Lewis, however how you pronounce it. Yeah, you could probably give her a rest there. But yeah, I think 7.5 is fine. I think the canary down the coal mine is what happened at Spurs. Now, it wasn't a red card. Obviously, we saw it on the video. But to get that close, that's frustration, that's tiredness, maybe a mixture of the two. And that's just going to get worse if they don't control that. So I would say she does need a rest at some point soon. But yeah, 7.5 for the reasons you outlined.
Bo Reeves had done an absolute fantastic job when she come on as a substitute for Tooney, so it just shows that it's not as though we're worried without her. But Chloe, what's your rating?
I agree with both of your points. A 7.5 matches Tooney's Tooney, because again, like you said, Maisy, she missed a few sitters, especially one. I think it was in the second half where she was 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper in the box, and she could have either passed it to Musso or had a shot. And yeah, she did have a shot, but it ricocheted off the goalkeeper. So yeah, a 7.5 is right for Tooney. And yeah, like Andy said, I think she needs to be rested, especially against Luz. But with it being a quarter-final, I don't think it's going to happen. Because you've got to think it's two games away from Wembley, and you want your best players on the pitch. So she's definitely going to play for Chelsea. Whether she's on the bench against Luz and then comes on in the second half, that's a question that we can look forward to see. But yeah, she weren't up to her usual self, and it's more likely down to overplaying of her. And we, like I say this, like, why change a team when it's going well and change it? And it's like, if we look back at the Euros, Serena started with the same 11, she's brought on the same subs, and it worked. So it's one of them that if you change the squad, you've got to change it because it doesn't work. And it's probably wrong that she's not being substituted a bit earlier, or in games like Durham, for what Andy said, she's playing it when she doesn't need to be. She could have just sat on the bench or stayed on the bench. She didn't need to play against some of the lower ranked teams, but it's not down to us. She's an important player for the team, and that's what matters. But yeah, she weren't her best yesterday.
Mm-hmm. And we'll stay with you, Chloe, for Martha Thomas's rating.
Chloe knows what's coming. That's why she's pausing.
I think Martha wasn't at her best yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
She did have some shots on target. She was crossing. Yeah, she got injured in the first half, and it did look quite bad. In terms of that, she was like she was kicking. She was holding her ankle. It was a worrying sight because she's a backup for Russo if you don't want to bring Rachel Williams on. And I think for me, Thomas is playing out of position. She's playing what Russo played last season. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think Thomas 7 for Thomas.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Andy?
You probably see the faces that I'm pulling. Just before I get into that, I mean, obviously we were discussing about rotation there, and Chloe's view is completely valid, and a lot of people hold that view. But I think there's a massive difference between 1 month tournament and a 6-7 month season. I think, you can't really do what Serena did. If Serena had Chelsea or us, she would rotate over a season. I'm pretty confident about that. But obviously nobody knows that because she doesn't play club football. She's an international manager. So it's just one of those fun conversations you can have over the proverbial drink at a bar, isn't it? About what you would do or what you would think so-and-so would do. Martha Thomas. Now, I suppose hopefully if you look at what I just said about Tooney and about Tooney being rested, it goes back to what I was saying about Zelen, that it isn't personal, that we took at them players. I'm a big fan of Tooney. My England shirt upstairs has got Tooney on my back. Martha Thomas, when I first when she was announced, I turned to people, actually got quite a little bit of a laugh actually, but I turned to people on the stand and said, "Oh great, Martha Thomas is playing. She's about as dangerous as a butter knife." And that's my ultimate problem with Martha Thomas. I'd say, and this is me being nice, I'd say 5.5.
Oh.
I agree. She played out of position. I don't think she's good enough to play for us personally. I think with you keeping Dre off, you keeping Garcia off, you keeping Paris off, and I never ever. I know Reese has gone worse than me. He's gone 5, so I'm not that evil. I don't know. I liked her last season. She kept Bruno off before she got injured. She had a lot of fire and she was a bit of a threat. Maybe it's a position change. I don't know. Possibly. I mean, I'm open about the fact that for me, football's an emotional game. I've got a lot better at looking at tactics, but it doesn't come as naturally to me as sort of just essentially passionately following team. But I just don't get it. She's not a threat. I never think she's going to score. And I just think we've got so much better that we're currently in the process of annoying, by her. And I don't understand how she's got her position, but also, and this is suppose an interesting point, how Skinner, she's the kind of exception that proves the rule with Skinner on rotation, because she's gone from being a sub player to a starter recently. So Skinner has changed things a little bit there, but just not for me, really. I mean, I could say 6, but I'm in the mood to say 5.5, I suppose.
I had a 6.5 for Thomas. I think it was good she assisted. That was it for me. But I think for me, with Thomas, I think she's much better as a super sub. I think she's been great at coming on as a substitute in the 60th, 70th minute. And I think when people are a bit tight, she's got that bit of pace, and that really hurts people. I think for me, though, if we are going to be playing Martha Thomas, Russo can't play. We can't have both of them on the pitch unless Skinner was to change to a 4-4-2. But there's more chance of us getting relegated than Skinner changing his formation. He won't ever change his formation. So and I just don't think two at the top. It's not. How can I say? It's outdated football. I'm not a fan of the 4-4-2. So I think either you don't play Russo and you play Thomas. Whereas I think Thomas plays a lot better when it's in narrow positions, like against Chelsea or against Arsenal or a bit against City. I think she plays better in them kind of games. But if you was going to play Thomas, you can't play on the wings, where I don't think she had got the crossing and the cutting and ability what Garcia and Paris has, and that's not something against her. It's something that Skinner has decided to do. He wants to convert it to a winger, which I have no clue why. As Andy's touched on, we've got Leon and we've got Paris, we've got we've got Garcia as well, and we've even got wingers on loan as well of Kirsty Hansen. So and I'm not Fuso, because she play on the wing as well.
Fuso's mid.
I mean, the thing is as well. I know I'm more focused about attacking, but Galton's a goal threat, and she's a definition of a winger. She's a proper winger, and I just want wingers to be goal threats. And I know that might be a personal preference, but I know what you're saying about her being a sub. But I never particularly think, oh, good, Thomas is coming on, she's going to get the goal for us. I just never think. I just don't think like that.
Yeah, I think for me with a winger, it's more for. I like my wingers to create as well as score. But if she went and got 3 assists, but she just got a bit happy because she got her assists. But I think for me is that if we're gonna be playing her there, we need to convert her better. Is she better on the left? I'm not too sure, but I don't know. What about Chloe? What did you want to touch on?
It's just more on like what Andy was saying. Last season she was really good for us because she's like Andy said, she kept run out of the starting 11, and then Brun got injured, so she had to play more. Russo played on the wing last season, and now it just seems that it's switched, and Russo's playing up, whereas Thomas is playing on the wing, and it's not suiting her. It might be that in Scotland, when she goes international breaks, she's playing on the wing for Scotland, so they're trying to get him to play more on the wing. Whether it's to do with that, with national team duty, we don't know. But like you said, Maisy, you can't play Russo and Thomas unless you put her at a 4-4-2. And Thomas is better coming off the bench, and I think in the game yesterday we should have started Dree, we should have started Paris, or we should have started one of the wingers. And for me, with Thomas being a striker but looking to be converted into a winger, it's like, for me, it doesn't work. And she should be more scoring due to being that attacker, that forward. But we saw it with Russo last season. She didn't score a lot when she was on the wing.
Exactly. Because she's a proper out-and-out 9.
Exactly. And this is what, for me, when we've had cup matches, Thomas has started in Russo's position to give Russo a break, or for Russo to be on the bench. Thomas has started in that number 9 spot. So for me, if it was cup matches, so against Lewes, for example, I would play Thomas, give Russo a rest.
What about Rachel Williams, though?
It's one of them. It's who's going to be that more goal attacking a threat. Rachel Williams has scored more goals than Thomas this season, but Thomas, I feel like Thomas is more quicker up front. And for me, if Thomas can be like mixed, where she's playing up front for a bit but also playing on the wing, then that would work. But again, it just reminds me of last season where Russo was playing on the wing and she didn't score a lot of goals when playing on the wing, even though she was attacker. And that's what it's looking like. It's like thinking, Mark, why are you playing a forward on a wing again and converting her to wing? Is it due to national duty? and they've asked you to try and convert her to a winger? Is it because of that? But we just don't know what conversations they have with national team coaches. So for me, hopefully she'll perform a lot better. But she's just not been her best this season like she was last season. And I think it's down to her being in the wrong position.
Mm-hmm. I've gone for the middle one because so we're in the middle, 6.5. The one last thing I wanted to touch on in terms of Thomas, in terms of positions, if we was to play the 4-2-3-1, for instance, for Martha Thomas, the only way I would actually play her, if we didn't play the 4-4-2, would be in Tooney's position. But as a centre forward, just behind Russo, I think that would be the only other way that I would play Martha Thomas, but I just don't think a link-up play is all there for me. That's just the only problem.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if you were to play her, you would switch. You'd put her where Tooney was, but again, Tooney's not good on the wing.
But what you'd probably have to do is you'd probably have to either start Paris or Garcia, and then you'd have to sub Tooney off, or you'd make 2 substitutes, perhaps.
Yeah, you'd probably stick with starting Tooney, keep Martha Thomas on the bench, put Paris on, and then switch it up and take Tooney off for Thomas or for Russo, Williams off for the other one, and then Dree or Garcia off for Paris, and do it that way.
Yeah, we'll finish off with the final player, which is Russo. I think it's going to be the obvious score anyway, but Andy, let's go with you. What score you going for?
I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone can play a perfect game, even if you score 3 true hat tricks and 9.5. But obviously, she did really, really well. I think, it's one of those where, as well as she does, you start thinking, why can't we sign you down? Why can't we get you to sign? Obviously, we're going to be more onto Chelsea, I'm sure, in a second, and maybe the answer's going to be there. It might even be, to be honest, our performance against Chelsea. If we beat Chelsea, we beat Chelsea full stop. But if we have a really strong performance and win as well, she might then say, okay, well, we're very likely we're going to get at least third now. We're holding our own against Chelsea. Maybe she will consider it, but it just depends on how much money is available from obviously from Skinner and from Polly Bancroft, and who actually controls who. There's been interesting discussions that were being had yesterday about actually, how strong is people above Skinner to keep him in his box. But yeah, I think 9.5. She's brilliant, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Chloe, what are you going for?
A 10 for me. Mm-hmm. She was the outstanding player on the pitch yesterday. She scored the hat trick. She had shots on target. She was always in the box and where you wanted her. Yes, she made a few mistakes, but that was just down to the Leicester were all around her. Like, she had no, when she had the ball, it seemed like Leicester would just go on her, and she couldn't find a way out to get the ball out. So the only way it was to kick the ball out of play. And for me, that Russo, she only made a couple of mistakes, but she was definitely the best player on the pitch for us. So yeah, 10 for me.
Yeah, I had the same. I had a 10. A hat trick, an assist for Galton's goals. So out of 5 goals, 4 goal involvements, you can't really argue with that, to be fairly honest. So I had a 10. I had a 10 as well. So that's the ratings, what we've done. This is based on our own opinions, of course, on not the overall season, but just the one-off game. So if you think some are a bit lower or a bit higher, it's just based on Leicester's game. But we'll go into Chelsea anyway. And before we do, we'll just quickly say hello to the new people in the chat. Hey there, Liam. Thanks for coming in. I hope you are well. Hey there, Solo. I hope you are well. Thank you for coming in. Hey there, I like coffee. I hope you're well. Thank you for coming in. And good evening, Niall. Thank you for coming in. So both Ravi and my dad has asked similar questions about Chelsea losing the cup final, how their heads will be. And we'll go with Chloe in that just because I think it probably will link up to the game pretty well.
Yeah, I think like with losing a cup match, the Conti Cup for the second year in a row, to the same scoreline, 3-1, it's gonna knock their confidence. Whether they get a telling off from Emma Hayes is another matter. In terms of how they played and their reactions and stuff, because I watched the full match, as well as watching United men, which we will not comment on. But yeah, I think for me, I think Chelsea, they're gonna know this is a big match, but they play Brighton midweek. So they played yesterday in the cup match. They play Wednesday against Brighton, and then they play us on Sunday. And for me, it's going to be crucial in terms of how well they play against Brighton. If they lose against Brighton, their heads are going to be even worse. Their heads are going to be down. If they draw against Brighton, their heads are going to be down. They're going to have a little bit of looking up. But for me, if they lose or draw against Brighton, they've got 2 games in hand, and Brighton's one of them. So they need these 6 points, basically. Mm-hmm. They need these extra 6 points plus the 3 points against us to try to win this league again, because it's ours to lose now. We're top of the table. For me, Chelsea, if they can see where they went wrong yesterday, and if their heads are down from that game, from losing the cup final, then we need to punish them. We want Brighton to punish them on Wednesday, but we need to punish them on Sunday. And if we win against them, their heads are going to be more down, because they're going to have to realise that they've got to come back now to get to where we are. And I think we have to win this game. Whilst Chelsea are down and not playing at their best, we've got to think that we're in the FA Cup, we're in the title race. They've got 2 games in hand on us. They're in the Champions League and still in the FA Cup. So they've still got a lot of matches to come up. So now the pressure is building on them, as well as match time. And they've already lost 1 trophy. So they've still got 3 trophies to go for. So their heads are going to be down for a few days, but their head's going to be ready to go again on Wednesday. And then even better, they're going to be ready to go against us on Sunday, knowing full well that if they don't win, their heads like they're not going to be happy. So yeah, I think the heads are down, and they probably have got to turn off from Emma Hayes for the way they played. But it's one of them, when you're the reigning champions of the league and you're one of the best teams in the world, your heads aren't down for long. You bounce back and you've still got a league to go for. So we need to kick them while they're down.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Andy, what do you think about this question as well? Because I think for me, I think that this, knowing that they've lost in the cup final, they're going to be more determined in this game.
I think the key is going to be Brighton, because without that midweek game, I'd be very worried playing a very wounded Chelsea on Sunday. That midweek game, they've got, it's like a cat with a mouse. They could smash Brighton 8-9-0 and get it out of the system, and then it's just a toss-up on Sunday. That middle game is what's the interesting thing for me. And also, it was announced earlier that Brighton have just sacked their manager. So
again?
Yeah, so they're going to be under a caretaker on Wednesday.
It was, well, what I read, it was announced mutual consent of termination contract.
Yeah,
we all know that means sacked, don't we?
The point is, he's not going to be there, and you're going to have a new guy, or I don't know if it'll be a guy or a gal coming in. Is only going to have 2 days with the team to then be the top person. and and they're already. And it was funny because there was conversations that happened yesterday, and one of our well-known supporters got to speak to Willie Kirk and asked him who he thinks are going to go down this year, and he actually said Brighton. He thinks Leicester's got enough to stay up. I agree because of that keeper mainly, but I personally think Reading is a very dangerous one. But Brighton is the one that he personally thinks will go down. And I don't, and I wouldn't. I thought it was a bit of a strange one because they put a lot of money in their new facilities. They're backed by a Prem club, but the fact they've got rid of their manager, 2 managers in a season, and they're free falling at the bottom of the league. Actually now I'd say they're more likely than not in the sense of if you think about them or Reading or Leicester. Reading, I kind of feel I want to go down because I don't like mediocrity. They've just kind of been happily just sort of, I know they're not a Prem club, but they've happily sort of just kind of ticked along and just done enough. And I think they need to get their posteriors kicked a little bit to give their women what they need to go forward. But apparently Brighton is a danger club. But then also I've heard that apparently Brighton is a bit of Chelsea's bogey team as well, a little bit like us with Reading. So it's a very interesting idea. But I think, to be honest, without the midweek game, it would actually be harder for us to beat Chelsea now they lost to Conte. With the midweek game, they could get it out of the system and smack them 10-0, and then it's just a normal game after that, isn't it? And I think obviously the other issue is our friend Skinner has a psychological barrier to play against Emma Hayes. He's never beaten her. I believe even for Birmingham, he's never beaten her. And we've discussed his issues with tactics. And as I said yesterday to someone I was there with, 9:01 this morning, Emma Hayes knows that Mark Skinner is going to play 4-2-3-1. She knows what the order of subs are going to be, and she can practice on the training pitch with her defenders on how to counteract them now. I know she won't because she's got Brighton, but you get the general idea. She'll do that after Wednesday. The interesting thing is going to be is if we come out and we play like we did first half of the last game of the season last year, and we're doing really, really well, and she counters and he wobbles. Has he got the mental fortitude to make the adjustment to actually get it over the line this year? And if he does, then obviously that would say, okay, maybe it is a different story. I think we are definitely in a much stronger position than we thought we were going to be at the beginning of the season. I think, could we dream about the title? Possibly. But I think it all depends if we can beat them at their place this weekend, and we're going to have an idea what happens on Wednesday when they play Brighton.
Yeah, I definitely see what you both mean as well, and I just think it's a good thing that they are going to be playing against Brighton midweek, but then I think if they win 5, 6, 7, 8-0, they might think, oh yeah, we could beat Man United kind of thing. But it's just a bit. We need to get over the psychological barrier, which we haven't got over. Even with all the squad depth we've got, and we've got the mentality now of the players. Like, we've got Nikita Paris, who's literally won everything in English football, won the Champions League. You've got Maisy, who's played in the Champions League. Now you've got the Lionesses, who's won the Euros. You've got all this mentality, this winning mentality, and I'd like that to be portrayed because we have seen it in most of the games this season, and I think they need to look at Chelsea and think they're just another opponent. We've literally beat Arsenal. For me, going to Arsenal at the Emirates is so much harder than going to Kings Meadow.
Yeah, I agree, but I think the thing about Arsenal at the Emirates, we knew in the back of our mind, at least we beat them once somewhere. Our team is going to go on that pitch thinking we've never beaten Chelsea, even if it's in the back of their mind. And I think, once we get that win, and I was hoping it would happen in a Conte or a less pressure game, then we might, monkey off our back time and we can beat them anywhere and all this kind of stuff. And, my discussion about Emma Hayes, I'm not a fan of her with some of the things that she said about smaller goals and smaller balls and smaller time for women. She's also said some silly things about football being a middle-class sport and a few of the silly things recently. And her response to the loss was interesting against Arsenal. But I think fundamentally, she's a very strong tactician, and at least she's very good at putting a reputation out there. And I think there is an element. They do say one of the other sports that I follow is NFL. You know, when Patriots were at their prime, when Belichick was there, the fact they were going against Belichick, the top sort of coach, would give them give them a touchdown, give them a first goal. And I think to an extent, a lot of teams are like that. Even with good managers, I think to some extent that's what happens. And and Skinner isn't a good manager, so I think there is an issue there.
Mm-hmm. Before I've gone to my predicted lineup, in terms of how we can break Chelsea down, I just think we've got to go through the middle and maybe even try and exploit Niamh Charles. Just because I think for me, at time to time, Niamh Charles has looked very vulnerable, and we've seen that Emma Hayes has put Niamh Charles in the midfield to help her out a little bit, I think, in terms of the defending, in my personal opinion, because for me, she's a fullback, / centre-back. But what are you both thinking as well, Chloe and
For me, the way we need to break down Chelsea, I think we need crosses into the area. We need that mentality of getting the ball into the right area. We know we can head the ball. We know Russo can head it. We know we can have shots outside the box. We know that. But we need Millie Bright, Eriksson. They're the two players that are the two of the best that I say for Chelsea. Two of the best centre-backs in the league. Other than depending on who we play. But for me, if we are gonna take down the defence of Chelsea, we need to take down at the wings, at the fullbacks, and Leah Golden on the left, and I would say Paris on the right because she's quick. And if Niamh Charles is playing in midfield or she's playing as a fullback, we need that pace. We need it, and we're gonna be up against Lauren James, and we all know how quick she is. And if you're not putting your fast players on, Lauren James is going to get that ball off you. So the only way we can break down Chelsea is by looking into where they went wrong against Arsenal and where their weak points were against Arsenal. And I don't know if you've watched the game or saw it, but Emma Hayes made an early substitution. And I've never seen Emma Hayes make an early substitution unless it was for an injury or anything else. And for me, if Emma Hayes makes an early substitution, something's wrong within that squad. And to make it in the midfield because a player's not playing at their best or she's not been seen with the ball, then what is wrong in that midfield? And why take, I think it was Kanokovic off? Why take Kanokovic off and put on Buchanan for her? It's one of them that why make that decision in the first half and not put her on in the starting 11 and then brought Kanokovic on and done it that way. So these weak points where United can break down Chelsea, but it's now looking at, have a look at the weak points when they play against Brighton. Forget about Arsenal. Look at what they're doing against Brighton. Look at their weak points and break down it on that and see where their weaknesses are. Are they on the wing? Who can we put on the wing to challenge Niamh Charles, to challenge Eriksson and other players? So, yeah, for me, it's the wings where I think we need to break it more down and put on the pace for me.
Do you agree with what Chloe said, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is that the best chance that we've got against beating Chelsea is doing something that Emma Hayes doesn't expect. Now, because Skinner doesn't do that generally. And I think sort of building what Chloe was saying there, I mean, adding pace. I think, you're going against some of the best defenders in Europe and in England, obviously with Millie Bright as well. If they're set, they're going to set quicker than any other team in the league. They're going to get their position. They're going to set. they can look. It's like, oh, look, there's United with the ball. Just wait 7 minutes by the time it gets to us. And then, and they'll just take it off us. Like, it's about keeping on their back foot. It's bringing a little bit of Hannah Blundell from the game on Sunday. Long pinpoint balls that break into their patterns and a bit of pace. If we try and do that ticky-tacky stuff, where it takes 25 minutes to get to the sort of goal line of the opposition, we're going to really struggle because that defense will just adjust, will just move, and it'll just move, and it'll just move, and Skinner will go, and it'll just move, and we're going to really, really struggle. And then we're going to have an issue if they nick a goal because of the psychological barrier we discussed earlier. So the best option we've got a chance to do is to do a little bit more direct, like we sort of did a little bit on Sunday, in the sense of running with the ball, pacey wingers, binning off that tic-tacky stuff to an extent, and also scoring early. The issue is going to be if Sam Kerr scored in the second minute like yesterday. And I didn't watch the game, but I know there will be other issues as well. But I think if she did something similar with us, we would really, really struggle because we haven't got that experience of beating Chelsea.
Absolutely, I agree with both your points. We'll look at the starting 11, what I've completed. I know you may have a different starting 11 to what I may have. I've gone for Earps, Honor, Laetitia, Turner, Blundell, Zellum Lad, Galton, Toon, Paris, Russo. I'll explain why I think, for me, in terms of Paris, I know Paris isn't everyone's number one fan, but she's so brilliant at keeping low blocks. And I would much rather Nikita Paris start, come on the 60th minute, and then you have Buchanan, you've got Millie Bright tired after working with Russo, after working with Galton, and then bringing the pace on of Lucia Garcia. That would be what I would personally do. And I think for me is I think Galton's the best winger in the league, no question about that. But I think with Paris, she's one of them where she's so brilliant at a defending kind of winger. And I think that's the kind of thing that we are going to need to do against Chelsea. We're going to have to be more of a counter-attacking team. We're going to have to expect to be a counter-attacking team and keep the ball of what we've got. So that's why I've picked Paris. If I was going to have it my own way, not Mark Skinner's way, I know this is very controversial, but I would drop Ella Toon. I would drop her for Bo Risa, because when you look at that Conti Cup game last season, Bo Risa for me was absolute masterclass, and it was just a shame that I don't think she got the recognition off the manager for it. I think she's great in tight spaces, and I just think every big game we've had this season, I think Toon has been lost. I don't see her. She's like a ghost. But apart from that, I think everything is near enough the same. And what do you think of that lineup? Any changes?
It's interesting. It is interesting. I mean, linking to what I was saying earlier about things that you wouldn't expect. Paris, I agree, big game player. Played at the highest level, played in the Euros final. But you're playing against England defenders who would have played with her in training and know a lot of her secrets. So do you want to do a curveball? Do you want to put Garcia where Paris is and flip what you said and have Paris coming on later? That's just either or. I think your solution is completely valid as well. It just very much depends on. I mean, I want everybody with as much pace possible, but I would probably keep it as Paris. Tooney, I wouldn't drop Tooney because of the way she's been treated. Barisa's confidence is wobbly as hell, and I think if she's thrown into the cauldron against Chelsea, there's more. It's going to be a toss of a coin whether or not you get the Barisa, who quite rightly should have been playing a hell of a lot more and scored the free kick the weekend previous to the one we just had, or you're going to get the Barisa that panics, and so it's a toss up. I would say that would be good. I think keep if you did do Barisa, but I would say. So you can see I'm struggling because there's so many different permutations. I'd love Skinner to do something utterly mental and start that Norwegian woman, whatever her name is, Narsund, because they have no film on her, and and it would really throw them, and I know that would probably be at the expense of Lad. Would it be, Chloe?
Probably, but I can't see it.
Seldom wouldn't get dropped.
No,
That wouldn't get dropped. Just something different, Mark. Something different, because it's like because she's never something like that would be interesting. But yeah, I mean, just to sort of bring it to what I'm saying, I'd probably stick with what you've got. Possibly Garcia for Paris for pace reasons, but I see why you've gone the way you've gone.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Chloe? Any changes?
No, I agree with what you said. For me, Paris has beaten Chelsea. So she knows that mentality of what it's like to beat Chelsea, and to have that experience in the squad of her beating Chelsea, it's what we need. I think she does. I think she is very quick on the ball, and if you're going to put anyone up against Lauren James, I think it is Paris. Mm-hmm. I think if, like what Andy was saying, if you were to change someone, I would probably change Paris for Lucia Garcia. Mm-hmm. But pace-wise, I think Paris is quicker. And then, like what Andy was saying, Millie Bright and the other English girls at Chelsea will know a lot about what Russo's like, what Paris is like, what Toon's like, you've got to remember, like, as well, she's gonna know a lot about the England girls on Chelsea's side, so they're gonna know a lot about her weaknesses as well. So for me, it's good to have players that know other players on the team and have that mentality, knowing that you're top of the league. If you drop, if you want to win that trophy, if you want Champions League, you need to have your best players on the pitch. And for me, Paris is that player that we need the quick pace off. And it all depends on how Chelsea are going to line up, because they do change a lot depending on who they play. So it'll be interesting to see who they play for Brighton, who's in their starting 11 to then who's in the starting 11 against us, and whether they keep the same 11. But yeah, I would stick with the starting 11 that you've put up there, Maisy.
Mm-hmm. Reese mentioned Cascarino in the live chat, and I just think for me, Cascarino's only played 2 games. I would not risk starting her, not by a country mile. I think she's great, and I think we're great to have her for the squad depth, and we need her for the Hayley Ladd backup or a competition for Hayley Ladd. But like it'd just be like starting Leon in this game, just the rustiness. Yeah. And I don't think she's fully, not that she's not fully up to the tactics of the team yet, because she's only so very new. But it's good how Andy mentioned Lisa, just because I was surprised she didn't start couldn't come on in yesterday's game to make a debut.
Yeah,
knowing, well, you last season when we was at King Meadow last time, Bruni came on as a substitute, or she started, one or the other. She got thrown into that Chelsea game like she was getting hounded by Wolves. So, who knows? Maybe Matt's might be that exciting person we never knew. But my dad has asked a good question. If we beat Chelsea, do you think we can win the league? I think it's a very strong possibility that we can do that, just because apart from that, all the strong teams who are left in, Arsenal at home, City at home, we've got a brilliant record at home. It's only been Chelsea this season who's beat us at home. So there's no other team who's able to get 3 points from us. So I think that we have a very strong chance. If so, what about you, Andy? What do you think?
Yeah, I think if we beat Chelsea, we will be in a very, very strong position to win the league. I think that would be a hell of a psychological boost, especially being at Chelsea. I think the issue. Excuse me. We still got to play Arsenal at home, and obviously we got City as well. Left to play at home. But we would be very, very strongly. But I would say that if we beat Chelsea, we've almost, I know not mathematically, but we've pretty much secured Champions League, because I think that would be such a different squad that we would keep. So I think it's possible.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Chloe?
Yeah, I think if we beat Chelsea, I think we've more than likely guaranteed our spot in the Champions League for next season. I would like to say that we would win the league if we beat Chelsea, but it's hard to say. You don't want to get your hopes up, because we make silly mistakes when we play teams. We draw games that we shouldn't draw, and we drop points where we shouldn't drop points, and that's that mentality that we need to get rid of. And I think if we can continue to win the games that we should be winning, then we can win the league. So yeah, if we beat Chelsea, we've got a strong possibility of winning the league, and I think we've much so have guaranteed our spot in the Champions League as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Before we do wrap up, we'll answer my dad's 2 questions. I know it's a bit off topic from Man United. Who's the best manager in the league, Chloe?
Come back to me.
You're looking using some of my moves there. It depends how you define manager, but the word that came up when I first saw the question was Carla Ward, because of the ability and the resources that she has, and what she adds to the players, and she's really, really ready soon. And I really, really hope there's a vacancy soon in a certain team. But if she's not, she could get a top 4. Next move will definitely be a top 4 team, and she could be set up as a fan favorite for that team. I mean, my knowledge for women's football is deep now, but it's quite shallow in the sense of, obviously it only started when United Women formed. I don't know, maybe Chloe might know this, if Emma Hayes was anybody before she came to Chelsea, if she had a rep before that, because I can see, unfortunately, if it's not United, Carla going to, because I think she would have to go. I think Villa aren't ultimately ever going to get there. I think Carla could go to an Arsenal, to a City, and then become a club legend over 10 years, like Emma Hayes has. She's got the player management skills. She's got the added value that she does with a limited budget. But also as well, and maybe this is a bit controversial, but I've never really moved away from not being controversial. I think there's a lot of players now that actually want to be managed by a woman, because of all these issues that have come out with all these male managers all across the league and the NWSL. Lucy Stan has come out in a recent interview saying that she prefers female managers. I think because of less ego is what I'd heard as well. So there's lots and lots of positives there. So I would say Carla Ward, but there is another way. If you look at it differently, there is another way. You'd probably have to say Emma Hayes, but I would say Carla Ward.
Mm-hmm. I think if you was looking at it based off this season, it has to be Carla Ward by a country mile. She's really pulled in some fantastic players. I'd even say that the team is overachieving compared to what they was doing last season. And I completely agree, is that I think Carla Ward would get a top job. I don't think she'd probably get Chelsea, because I think the only way Emma Hayes would leave is if she left, not if she got sacked. There'd be no way she'd get sacked. But do you know where I think she could go? Arsenal. Because I think, say for example, Jonas does not get into the top 3 this season, I think he could get sacked.
I mean, I don't know if your knowledge goes back, just out of interest, Chloe. Did she do anything before Chelsea? Was she a name when she got to Chelsea? She was in America for a bit, wasn't she? I remember.
Was it Chicago?
She was in the NWSL, but she was also as academy coach or a coach at Arsenal.
Right.
Back in a few years before she got to Chelsea. But I've got my answer now. I would say Carla Ward as well. The way she has brought that team up from where they were last season to now is incredible. The players she's brought in, she's brought in the likes of Daly, Daly, Jordan Nobbs, who left Arsenal who are playing in Champions League for a club who isn't, for more game time. You've got the likes of obviously Al Loney, Kirsty Hansen there, Lucy Stands there. The players she's brought in are working wonders, and she's signed a new 2-year deal. So I can't see her leaving unless she gets offered big money from another team that she's guaranteed the best money, she's guaranteed good transfers and the backing of the club and the owners that she's got at Aston Villa. So I think the way that Carla Ward has done it this season, they could be fighting, if they got the right players in next season, they could be up there in the top 4, top 5 for me. And like what Andy was saying about, she's a top manager, and if she wanted to go to another team and coach at a higher level in terms of like the top 3 or the top 4, as you now say it, with us, Arsenal, Chelsea and City, I think she would. And I don't think it would be Arsenal or Chelsea. I would hope it would be United, but I think before any of them coaches go, if City don't win a trophy, or if City don't get in the Champions League this season, Gareth Taylor's going. And I could see Carla Ward going there if she gets offered the money. But yeah, Carla Ward is probably one of the best managers in the league by far.
And the final question, who's been the best player in the league up to now? And we'll go to Andy first for this one.
Oh, this is where I probably, I look out because I don't really follow as much of the other players. I mean, obviously, from non-United, but no, I'll take it from non-United's perspective. You would have said Beth Mee before she got injured. You would have said, Miedemar, the sort of the standard kind of situation. I would say actually Russo would be up there. I know it's a biased point of view. Because of her work rate, and that is why she's got a long list of people trying to take her from us, and possibly because I know Stina scored yesterday, but she still isn't doing brilliant. Jonas Edenval had the equivalent of white line fever so much because he wanted Russo on the final day. He actually wobbled his only striker he's got left because obviously the rumor is that he was going to chuck Blackstenius in the pot, wasn't he? And if it was going to happen in January, I think Russo, or you could say Daly, but it's hard to tell with the rest of the team she plays with. So I would say Russo.
Chloe, what about you?
I'll go into this question in a different way. So I'll go. My United player for the best player in the league would be Russo, like Andy touched on, but if I weren't being biased, I would say Rachel Daly because of the way that she's been playing at Aston Villa, the way she helps the team out. She can play anywhere on the pitch. If Carla Ward asked her to play in defence, she would. She could play up front. She can play in midfield. The only position she can't play is in net, unfortunately. But for me, if I weren't being biased, it would be Rachel Daly. But yeah, Russo as United. It's them two for me, Daly and Russo. And like you both touched on, Beth Mee before she got injured.
I think the best player in the league up to now, unbiased, I'd have to go for Rachel Daly. I think she has really transformed the Aston Villa team. A proper leader on the pitch. Not that I think Kenzie Daly is a great leader as well, but I think that Rachel Daly, you can see how much she's commanding the box. She's shouting at her players to do better, to go forward, and I think Aston Villa kind of needed that kind of representation because they didn't really have that in forward kind of play. I don't think we've seen that in Lenham. We did. Kirsty Hansen's still fairly young, so I think she needed someone experienced next to her to help with her development as well. So as Chloe touched on, Rachel Daly can play literally everywhere, but she's an absolute deadly striker. She's averaging out a goal or two each game, and considering she played as a fullback in the Euros, and apart from Spain, she'd done an outstanding job. It's mad that someone can be a fullback and then go into a striker role. Like, there's not many players anymore in football that can play in loads of different positions that way. I think she's a very special player, and I think Aston Villa very, very lucky to bag her, if you want my opinion. And from Man United's point of view, I'd have to go for my player of the season. I'd probably have to say Letitia. I think she's been brilliant. She's played like she's never, like she's always been at Manchester United. She's just clicked straight away. I think that Millie Turner looks very, very comfortable next to her, complements her very well. I think it allows Honor as well to go further forward because Honor feel comfortable to think, right, I've got Letitia behind me and she's brilliant at tackles. I don't need to track back as much. I can do my best for the team in terms of the goal scoring abilities. So I'd have to go with Letitia because I think she's really transformed that defense what we needed last season because of the squad depth. But we'll wrap it up here. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Chloe, for both coming on. It's been a great show. Andy, would you like to shout out your socials and the score prediction?
Yeah, score prediction. Oh, that's going to change about 5 times as I drive down on Sunday. Please win. No, yeah, obviously socials are at @AJ_87 at the moment. May change. I think it has to be something nil because if we let anything in, we're going to crumble. And I know that's difficult to say. 1-0 to United.
Okay. Chloe, thank you as well for coming on. Would you like to shout out your socials and also your score prediction?
Yeah, we'll do. My social is there, Chloe Riley 14 on Twitter. I'm not going to be at the match, unfortunately. I'm in work this weekend, so I'll catch up on the match after I finish work. But for me, I can't see Chelsea not scoring. So I'm going to go 2-1 United.
I'm very worried at Ravi's prediction, to be honest, because he's betted for us, and he betted for us against Liverpool and we got battered. Everything Ravi does, the exact opposite happens, so I'm a bit worried now. But thank you both for coming on. I'm going to be a bit negative. I feel like we're going to lose again. It's just, do you know, that deja vu kind of thing?
Yeah.
I don't want us to lose, but I'm going to have to go 2-1.
See a draw?
2-1 Chelsea.
Can you see a draw?
Potentially. If it is, it's going to be like 2-2.
2-2. Yeah.
But I think Chelsea's going to probably win. It's at Kings Meadow. I think we would have had a much better... how can I say, chance if it was at Lee Sport Village, but knowing it's at Kings Meadow, I'm not confident at all, if you want me to be honest. I know that's quite negative, but yeah, thank you both of you for coming on. It's been a great show, as always, with you both. I'll be next live tomorrow, 8 o'clock. I'll be with Luca. We'll be doing a Sporting versus Arsenal preview. So go and check that out. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button as well. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.